What's up, everybody, and welcome to the post-game edition of the Chicago Football Show. As always, I'm Scott Bair, alongside Nicholas Moreano, and we come to you after yet another one-score game, yet another Chicago Bears victory, this time by the score of 31-28. The Bears are 8-3.
8-3, Scott. I mean, this is a team that is rolling on top of the NFC North. And if you're watching Bears games, you should come to expect these close games in the fourth quarter, because that's how the Bears have been doing it lately.
And they've been doing it well enough. But I still see so much more potential in this group, and that's what I think is fascinating, is that they continue to stack wins knowing that they're nowhere close to playing at their highest level, especially on offense. It's just been a fascinating watch. It was excellence, I think, from the coaching staff that we are going to get to later. But before we do that, we are going to give you the 3 keys to this Week 12 victory here at Soldier Field. Nick, number 1, there's only one way to go here, and that's focusing on a Bears defense that was down 3 starting linebackers, 2 starting defensive backs, and then lost a defensive back and a linebacker during the game. This was a DeMarco Jackson game. This was a Amen Ogbongbemiga.
There we
Nailed
go.
it. It was a game for those guys. And then, as we're going to talk about later, there was some star power that did show up. But for a guy like DeMarco Jackson, who never plays on defense, to play middle linebacker, Ben Johnson gave him the game ball, 15 tackles, 29 tackles between those 2 guys that I just mentioned. So impressive. And they seemed to get better as the game went on.
Absolutely. And I think the word that comes to mind with this group, Scott, resiliency.
Yeah.
When you think
That's
about
it.
all the starters that were out going into this game, starters that also went out throughout the course of this game, Dennis Allen's unit just next man up mentality. And that meant DeMarco Jackson. That meant guys like Amen Ogbongbemiga that had to step up in this game, because there was really nobody left for them to play with defensively. 6th linebacker, and the way that they were playing, especially towards the end of the game, they kind of got a feel for what this defense was supposed to do, what they were supposed to be doing in this defense. So credit to the coaching staff to prepare all the guys that were featured in this game, because they showed up in a big way for the Bears.
They did. And kind of time and time again, you saw that Steelers run game kind of assert itself in the first half as they were racking up points and they were going on these crazy long 13. I think there was one 17-play touchdown drive in the second half. But you just saw little windows of a play made here, a tough run stop here that got them off of the field, and we're still kind of able to make the plays required to get wins. And this is after T.J. Watt and Caleb Williams with that strip sack in the end zone. The Steelers were kind of spotted 7 points. That's not part of the Bears' winning formula. And again, defensively down the line, because the offense couldn't close it out in the fourth quarter. They had an opportunity to and failed. The Steelers had 2 chances to get within field goal range and tie this game late. Both times they were not able to do it. And I think that's credit to not only the backups, but to everybody on that defensive unit. Such a gritty performance from that group.
Yeah, and I think early on, too, Scott, we were in the press box. The Steelers were attacking the flats.
They were.
Attacking horizontally this
So
Bears
much.
defense. But especially in the second half, you didn't see some of those as glaring holes in this defense. There's adjustments being made, and that's a credit, again, to everybody that was in on specific plays, whoever the 11 were out there on defense, Dennis Allen, that coaching staff, identifying, well, this is what's hurting us right now. Let's make this adjustment, and force the Pittsburgh Steelers to beat us a different way. And I think that allowed this defense, again, to settle in. Guys like DeMarco Jackson, Ogbongbemiga, and again, you can't say enough good things about what that unit was able to do despite all the guys that were missing today.
I thought it was going to tip the scale too far. In my Bears observations, one of my takeaways as I was writing during the halftime break was injuries finally pile up on this Bears defense, because that's what it felt like in the first half, that they were missing TJ Edwards and they were missing Tremaine Edmonds, and they were missing so many key pieces that you just wonder, is this the time where the house of cards is going to fall? And somehow it didn't. As a matter of fact, they got better and better. If you look at that third quarter, that's about as good of an all-phases quarter as the Bears have had all season. And that's when you really felt that the coaching staff had made the right adjustments. The players got comfortable with what they were doing. DeMarco Jackson had the green dot, and he was calling plays, and he was telling us after the game that he was a little anxious about it. So he's waking up early in the morning, staring into the mirror in his bathroom at home, calling out plays, trying to make sure that all of the communication was really good. And Kevin Byard said that it was just like TJ Edwards was out there. And those are the key kind of subtle things that if you're off in that way, your play is going to suffer because you'll be a step slow. And that wasn't the case. And the Bears, as they always do, were able to get takeaways. And they got 2 big ones from guys that I think players know pretty well.
Yeah, look, Nashawn Wright making the, second defensive play of the game, a 50-50 ball to DK Metcalf, going up and getting that interception. At this point, I mean, now he's tied with Kevin Byard for the league-leading 5 interceptions on the season.
Crazy.
Like, this is a guy, going back all the way to training camp, you're like, who is the lengthy corner on this Bears defense? Well, he's the one making a bunch of different plays for this unit, especially when guys have gone down. So I think if you're this Bears defense, if you're Nashawn Wright, you kind of just expect to make plays at this point because of what he's done so far this season. Yeah,
it's been really impressive because if you look, and I wouldn't call him a presumptive starter, but if you look across the 11 guys that were out there, you could count presumptive starters, quote unquote, on one hand, probably. 2 safeties and maybe 2 or 3 guys along that defensive line. And that's about it. Everything else are fill-ins or guys who the coaches have developed over the course of the year. Now, look, I think I've been critical of this guy, Montez Sweat, at times for not playing up to his potential often enough. But he was in his bag today. He had 2 sacks, including a strip sack. That was and he recovered his own fumble, and then the Bears scored a touchdown off of that. He really should have had a 3rd sack, but he was in the backfield a lot. Very impactful. So impactful that a guy that doesn't like to talk to the press had to go to the podium. That's how big he was, and I think it was really impressive to see him when he was getting pressure, he was also getting home.
Yeah, look, the Bears absolutely needed him to step up in this one, Scott, given all the injuries, but he is your number 1 pass rusher. And finally, it just felt like he got in a rhythm, especially later on in that game where Mason Rudolph felt his presence. Yeah. And like you said, he should have had 3 sacks. And I was actually talking to Javon Dexter. He looked like he wanted to get that fumble, and it was funny because they call it a city fumble. He thought he was going to take that to the house, but he credited Montez Sweat for not only making the sack, forcing the fumble, but also picking it up in the first place. But when you have a player of that magnitude who's making those types of plays, then you do have a chance when you're missing all these defensive stars. So Sweat needed to step up in this one, and he did. Yeah, and there were 2 other subtle plays by Grady Jarrett, and then on the 4th down to seal the victory was Jaquan Brisker, right? Batted passes, not a Herculean kind of dramatic moment, but being in the right position, getting your hand up, knocking that ball down, and securing this victory. So much we've seen kind of late game heroics, right? The blocked field goal or field goals as time expires, or Caleb Williams running around the edge and finding the end zone. Not this time. This time it was just a defense being stout and being tough when they had to on critical downs. This defense is really good, but to your point, it's about the star power sometimes, is that a lot of these backups played well, but in big moments, the guys who make the big checks showed up. No, they did, and the Bears, like I said, they need to do that, and then with Montez Sweat having this game, like you just need to continue to see this from him, especially given the injuries on that defensive line, but it does feel like they're at any moment at the end of game, someone's going to step up. You just don't know who. Right. When you go into these games, you don't know who's going to be the hero in the 4th quarter. But there is always a new chapter being added to this Bears playbook, essentially, of who's going to fill that role. And that's why the Bears have been able to get to 8 victories on the season. 8 victories. And they got their 8th victory. And Caleb Williams, if you just look at the box score, 3 touchdowns, his passer rating, I believe, is in the 120s. And the numbers look good from that vantage, but a completion percentage hovering around 52-ish%, especially with the way that he got to that completion percentage. A lot of missed passes, but he made plays when it counts. It's a tough evaluation for the quarterback here. It is. There are plays where Caleb's right on the money with accuracy in the middle of the field, and then there are plays where he's throwing behind his receiver. You look at the sack fumble in the end zone. It's like, obviously, you don't want that. You don't want Darnell Wright giving up that pressure, but you still want to be able to maybe limit that to a safety. Right. In the worst case scenario. So exactly. So it was it was an up and down day, but that's why, Scott, we were mentioning all these other players stepping up. They needed to with kind of the day that the offense was having, especially in the passing game. But for Caleb Williams, I think we'll know a little bit better watching the All-22, but there were definitely some plays he left out there on the field.
Yeah, and he was saying in his post-game press conference that there were passes that he's normally surgical with, plays that he's comfortable with, where the Bears have their timing right, and those were the ones that he was missing. He was missing high at times. He was behind at other times, and you think if you can get that completion volume, it doesn't have to be even the high 60s, even into the low 60s, I think these offensive performances look a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
But in the red zone, he made it work. And in the red zone, the Bears were really good.
They were, Scott, and DJ Moore was a big part of that, too.
He was.
I mean, that first touchdown of the game that the Bears had, DJ Moore runs a beautiful, beautiful route against Jalen Ramsey to get open, and it was nice to just see number 2 in the end zone. It had been a little bit since he'd been there.
Yeah, and he ended up getting 2 touchdowns. Colston Loveland, who has been a critical down target for so long, and found another way into the end zone, another quality game from the number 10 overall pick. Now, that's what happened. But now Nick and I are going to look forward. After the break, we are going to tell you the best thing we saw and heard from the Bears locker room, and then we're going to break down what's coming up next, a Black Friday behemoth of a game against the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to talk about all that after this. Welcome back to the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott, and that's Nick. And this is my favorite segment of the show each week, where Nick and I tell you the best thing that we saw or heard from one of the players inside the locker room or at the podium. Nick, you're up first.
Yeah, so I got a chance to just talk to Javon Dexter one-on-one after this 31-28 victory, and I asked him what was he most proud of from this defensive performance. And, preferencing you are out 3 linebackers, you had guys in and out. But he talked about the defense closing out the game.
Yeah.
And doing so because there have been times where the offense has had to take on that task. But it was interesting to hear Javon highlight that despite all the players that they were missing in this game, they still felt like as a unit, they could still take on that task of closing out a football game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I think it's just a very prideful unit there, Scott. Regardless of who's in the lineup, they feel like they can win games, and today was a good testament that that is true.
Yeah, and for mine, I'm going to one of the backups who was featured in this game, DeMarco Jackson. He got a game ball from Ben Johnson. It was well deserved. He said in his NFL tenure, he's only worn the green dot one other time, once with the Saints, and that's it. And he shouted out his wife, which I thought was great. They have a 6-month-old who is starting to teethe and is up all night, and he said that his wife could sense that Jackson was a little nervous, a little anxious about taking on this huge responsibility. If you're not good in the middle, you're not good anywhere else.
Yeah.
And she could sense his nerves and sense his anxiety and said, hey, I got the kid all week. You focus on yourself. I was saying earlier he was reciting plays into the mirror, and he also did kind of a cool thing. He said that none of the injured linebackers, T.J. Edwards, Tremaine Edmonds, none of those guys checked out, meaning they were still showing up early. They were still in his ear, watching film with him, saying, this is what you need to key on. This is the check that you need to make. And as a matter of fact, T.J., even on the sidelines, was in DeMarco's ear, trying to help him get better, trying to help him improve the reads in the middle. And I think that speaks to the fact that it takes a village, is what is what Caleb Williams said. And you saw a rallying point. Hey, we're down so many of these guys. So all the starters who can't play, how can I help pour into these individuals who are going to be on the field? How can I make them better? How can this collective of 53 find a way to get it done even when you're not available? I think that really speaks to the locker room culture, that they would rally around these young guys, rally around these unproven guys to try to set them up to be good on game day.
Yeah, 2 things with that. One, you need a good partner in life to support you whenever you are in stressful times.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But 2, it doesn't surprise me about T.J. Edwards being like that coach kind of player.
Yeah.
Because when Noah Sewell had to jump in when he was injured, Noah told me that T.J. was somebody that was all invested in trying to make sure that Noah was prepared when he had to go fill in when, because of injuries. But yeah, it does take a village. And the Bears are using literally everybody on the roster at this point because of all the injuries to make sure that they are prepared on game day.
It's wild to think how many guys are missing, not only from the starting lineup, but from the rotation. Look at the defensive line has been beset by injuries. Dio Odangbo and Shamar Turner is gone.
Yep.
There are so many guys who are unavailable, yet this team still finds a way. And I think a lot of that, right, we're giving credit to these players for kind of pouring into them. You brought something up right before we started the show. Coaching deserves a game ball too, probably.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about even offensive line, Theo Bennett's not starting in this game. Scott,
That's a good point.
And you got Ozzie Trapillo, who going into this game had one snap at left tackle in the regular season. So here is his debut against Nick Herbig. There's obviously T.J. Watt, a Steelers defense that blitzes seventh most in the NFL. I don't know. This is just from the press box view, but it felt like Ozzie Trapillo had a decent game against a pretty good Pittsburgh Steelers defense. But again, goes credit to coaching and just having guys prepared in those moments. And even a guy like Nick McLeod, who has to go in after another injury to corner. Yeah. He had some rough moments, but I know he broke up a pass later on in that game, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson gave him praise for that in the locker room. So yeah, the coaching staff absolutely deserves credit for having anybody and everybody ready for their game time.
This is why you hired Dennis Allen. I'm sure his paycheck is not small, and I'm sure he was a premium asset in terms of going out and finding that defensive play caller. Ben Johnson didn't know him very well. He had some connections to Dennis, but not a personal relationship. Still manages to make that hire. I think it was really smart. Dennis Allen has been pretty frank about, I'm not going to call the same game. I'm not going to say, this is what we do. Reserve players, execute. That's not how he operates. And his ability to be malleable, to adjust his scheme and his calls to the talent that he has available, I think is really important. And we saw a number of good performances from Bears players today. Every single week, if y'all haven't seen it, go to MarqueeSportsNetwork.com. Nick does a really cool kind of in-the-moment, instantaneous stock watch. Who was somebody who made your article after this game?
There's a lot of great players, but I want to highlight Colson Loveland here, Scott, because this is a guy going into this game. He's been on a nice stretch right now, just being one, available pass catcher for Caleb Williams, but this is another one where you use your 6'6", 241-pound frame to go one-on-one against Kyle Duggar, the Pittsburgh Steelers safety. You win that route because of size, precise route running, are able to score a touchdown there. But he's also a factor in blocking, pass blocking, run blocking, and you're just seeing so many different ways how Ben Johnson can utilize a guy like that. So Colson Loveland, stock up after this game.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, and we're seeing him develop before our very eyes. And it's not only about target share, right? It's when you're being targeted.
Yes.
And on third downs, on critical downs, in the red zone, Caleb is looking for Colston quite often. And I think that speaks to, hey, I trust this guy. Now, obviously, why wouldn't you? He has the game-winning touchdown, catch and run against the Bengals. He's earned that trust. And I think you always hear the phrase willing blocker, which kind of sounds like, oh, he's fine doing it even if he kind of stinks at it. I think the term now should be he's an effective blocker. Don't you think? I think he's kind of made that jump. Look, not every blocking play is perfect. I saw him flub one, but consistently he will put his head down and go get you. I think that part of his game has been elevated.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about Colson Loveland and the effort with his blocking ever. But he is somebody that is going to square you up. He's going to give it everything he's got, and he's going to try to make his team in a better advantage because of his play on the field. That's all I've seen from Colson Loveland. So for Bears fans that were a little worried about him in the beginning of the season, I think he's on a great trajectory right now as we're kind of closing this 2025 regular season.
Yeah, and they're going to have to continue this path as they come up in, 5 days? They have a Black Friday contest against the Philadelphia Eagles. As we are recording this show right now, we don't know the final score of that Eagles game. We do know that that the Lions won, so the Bears are still a game up in the NFC North. But you start looking at the NFC picture, here, and a win over Philadelphia could be a tiebreaker factor, which is absolutely freaking wild that we're talking about this. This is like an out-of-body conversation compared to the expectations for the Bears back in August. Even the
0-2 start.
Right. After an 0-2 start, even the pie-in-the-sky super fan probably didn't expect this. But this is another important game. I think this is if the Bears can be competitive and find a way to win in Philadelphia, I think, as a matter of fact, we are being shown Philadelphia is up 21-0. So they are in firm command of the Dallas Cowboys right now. If they can be competitive against the class of the NFC, the defending Super Bowl champs, I think that's a real statement.
Then you know what? If they could do that, then there's no more what ifs, Scott. What about, the Bears haven't played anybody? They just beat a winning team today in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
They did.
They go out there and be a competitive unit, still down some key players, I would assume, against Philadelphia. Then there is no more of this, but it's more so like the Bears are a good football team. The Bears are a competitive football team, a team that you need to worry about. And especially if they can go out there and play a competitive game against the Philadelphia Eagles.
I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. I kind of wish this wasn't on a short week, that they would have a full time to prep and plan. And maybe they are going to get some folks back. Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson have been practicing. We still don't know about them. There's a big question mark around TJ Edwards, which if you follow me on social media, I say once a week, maybe more, how important TJ Edwards is as an anchor in this run defense. That's no disrespect to DeMarco Jackson or anybody else that's filled in. But that's a big-time move. Something that we haven't talked about, news that came out on Saturday, weak side linebacker Tremaine Edmonds on injured reserve will miss at least the next 4 games. And he's been good for a long time, so I don't want to say that this was his best season, but he was playing at a Pro Bowl-style level with 4 picks, great run defense, and never come off the field type of guy. Well, I don't know if he was happy about moving to a Will Backer, but it's been really beneficial for him. How much of a loss is that as we look in a longer term, especially because we don't know if Ruben Hippolyte is going to be available or not? All of a sudden, that weak side linebacker spot, question marks.
Yeah, it's a huge loss for the Bears going on IR for Tremaine Edmonds, but he's been playing really well, Scott. You mentioned the interceptions, but I think just as a run defender, Tremaine Edmonds took a step from last season. And switching the position, I think, helped him to play in that space, use that God-given athletic size and build to kind of go out there and make tackles. But that's a huge loss. That's a guy that, if you're trying to throw over the middle or wherever Tremaine Edmonds is in the defense, that's a tough ask to do because of his frame. But, yeah, Tremaine Edmonds, again, the Bears will just have to find a way to adjust like they always have when players have gone down.
Yeah, and that's been a theme of the entire season, is finding ways to adjust not only between games with all these defensive injuries, but finding ways to adjust within games and to put yourself in a position where you can go win it late. And the go win it late concept, right, that's not how they want to play.
No.
But I think that there's a level of confidence in that moment that has been built. There was a theme in the post-game press conferences. And Montez Sweat said it first, and we've heard it before, these are not the same old Bears. And I think that belief has been cemented now, that this is now a clutch unit. They feel like they've turned that corner, and I think that's a major thing as we go through all of these one-score games. Look, how many times have I said this is not a way to live, it's not sustainable, and yet they find a way to sustain it because it's not all luck and percentages, right? At some point, you just execute well late.
Yeah, the Bears like living on the edge.
They
Maybe that's
really
what they love to do. And, when the clock is ticking and plays need to be made, that's kind of what they need, the fuel to maybe just end the game and do so in their favor. So it's not a formula, like you said, you want to live with. You don't want to continue doing this, but it's kind of hard to argue that they can't keep doing this because all they do is keep on winning.
Now, it may go against them at once or twice, but again, they're 8-3. And going back a couple weeks back when they had their 6th one, I said, okay, well, if they can somehow finish 4-4, that's 10 wins, then you're at least in the conversation for the 7th seed. I feel like our view of this team has got to change a little bit, right?
I mean, Scott, it's not like, can they be a wild card team? They're on top of the NFC North right now.
Yeah.
Can they win the division? Can they do that if they continue winning? Like that, I'm sure that's the mindset that they all have right now. I don't know why they wouldn't. They keep winning football games, already 8 on the season. So, yeah, as long as they keep doing this, Scott, there's no reason why this team shouldn't believe that they can host a playoff game. Who knows?
Wow. I think it's time to take the limits off. Now, they have to finish strong, obviously, and the schedule includes 2 games against Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, and Philadelphia. Ugh. That's a lot of stuff. But how the Bears execute down the road, they could end up winning the NFC North. They could have a higher playoff seed. And I think it's going to be fascinating to watch as we continue to document this Bears 2025 season. Nick and I will continue to do that with you after each and every single game right here on the Chicago Football Show. So if you haven't already, simple rule. Download the Watch Marquee app or subscribe to the Watch Marquee YouTube page to get this show each and every week. Nick and I will be back with you on Friday evening after the Bears play the Eagles. That is a huge matchup, one I can't wait to see. And we will talk to you again next week.